It's frustrating. It is very frustrating that one of my favorite superheroes is also tied with one of my greatest fears. I want to play you. I really want to play you. You look like a ton of fun. But I know for a fact I'm going to be dealing with so many spiders. And that's not going to make me happy. No, it's not. It couldn't have been based off something else, like a dragonfly, or hey, why not a superhero ladybug maybe? Let's try it out anyway. And that's gonna be enough for me. This spawn of Satan will not be allowed in this Christian household. Goodbye. Spider-Man, not to be confused with Spiderman, which is an actual thing. Wonder what his theme song is. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, every swing cuts his lifespan. This red-cladded web crawler has been with us for the past 50 years and has seen many iterations. Some great, others not so much. But now in 2018, we are graced with what many believe to be the definitive Spider-Man experience, Spider-Man! The latest turnout from Insomniac Games, who have made such notable icons such as Ratchet & Clank or the Spyro trilogy, soon, my child, you'll be here soon, has finally arrived exclusively to PS4, with some fair amount of fanfare, yeah. People have been going absolutely bonkers for this game, easily pushing Spider-Man 2 off the podium as the best Spider-Man game ever. Is it really deserving of such praise? Well, yes.
This game is so much fun.
Swinging through New York, bashing around enemies with your spider sense, the bosses, the enemies, the references, the plot points, the story, the voice acting. This game is so good, I am making this entire video as an excuse to play through it all again. That's how much I love this thing. And because I have a few grievances with it, but what can I say? I've got to stay positive and negative. Plus, I'm a prick you can never make happy. Now, I won't talk about points everyone already has before, like the combat, the fluid transition from cutscene to gameplay, how it makes you feel like Spider-Man, blah blah blah. You've heard that all 5 times, I'm sure. I want to focus on 5 other aspects. A fresh take on this game so addicting you turn to an insomniac playing it. While most of Spider-Man on PS4 I find amazing, there are some moments I found spectacularly dumb. So let's stay friendly, but not too much. Here are my top 5 most amazing and stupidest moments in Spider-Man. That was like 3 puns in one, people. Give me some credit here. I won't lie, I am not a Spider-Man expert. I don't read comics because no money, but I did watch a lot of them as a kid. Notably his cartoons, like the 90s show, which showed me his greatest enemies. The Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, Sandman, Rhino, Shocker, Scorpion, and the Godfather himself, Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin. This guy is the shadow ruler of New York, controls every aspect of the city from Fisk Tower, is a criminal genius, and is kinda strong for a guy with no supposed superpowers. He is such a big bad. Daredevil, Spider-Man, and Punisher are always under constant threat from him. He keeps the other villains in check through authority, plots, and fear, and in here, you wonder how. Now don't get me wrong, I understand why Fisk had to be the first boss and taken out so quickly. It's his downfall that puts the machine into motion. He had to go down. But did it have to be so pathetically? This is the Kingpin who's been fighting Spider-Man for 8 years.
8 years of this insolence.
8 years, that is a hell of a long time. In that time, he should know what the web spitter is capable of. But what's his defense? Not securing his top secret files, letting Spider-Man take the evidence with ease.
Aw, you guys forgot the latest kernel patch.
Bomb his own tower while he's still in it. Try to ambush Spider-Man when he knows about the spider sense. And when you finally get to his chambers, what is his last line of defense? 2 turrets and a screen. This was a really big off day for you, wasn't it? Let's see how long those turrets last. Not even 10 seconds. At least when you fight him properly, he's a challenge. He hurts a lot, charges at you. Okay, the way you take him down is pretty simple, but at least he's not some recurring enemy type you find all over the place in the game. Actually, he is! He's just a big thug you meet all the time later in the game. Same build, same attacks, same way of taking him down. Guys, this is Kingpin, the ruler of New York. You're telling me that all this time he's the same as some average big thug? Are you kidding me? I used to watch this guy take on Spider-Man all the time. Why did it take 8 years to snag this idiot? You're better than this, Fisk. You may not have superpowers, but you have super money. Use more traps. Get your helicopter to shoot at Spidey. Don't be hit by the same attack over and over again. You're the Kingpin, goddammit. Respect yourself. All in all, this is still a really cool chapter and one of the best openings I've ever played. But I love Kingpin, and to see him go down so easily, it irked me. It irked me quite a bit.
1 month! In 1 month you wish you had me back!
I wish I had you back now. When making a superhero movie, game, or even comic book nowadays, I think one of the hardest tasks to do is actually not make it look dumb. And that's a lot harder than it looks. We are talking about a world where people dress up as bats to fight crime, radioactive spider teens, and the Fantastic Four got this. The 60s were a different time. It's hard to go back to the old days and take costumes like these seriously. The 90s cartoon, for as much as I love it, look at some of these costumes! Shocker looks like he's wrapped up in a quilt, Dr. Octopus is a mishmash between a Power Ranger and Justin Bieber, and Rhino is just a really big guy in a Halloween suit. These guys desperately needed new designs for this game, and oh my god, they look so cool! First and foremost, the white spider suit is one of Spidey's bests, no doubt. The white on his chest stands out so much more than the teeny tiny black spider from before. It catches the eye and I love it. But then you have all his other costumes. The original suit, the homecoming suit, the negative suit, the Iron Spider, the black suit, the Spirit Spider. No, not that one. That one just looks weird. I keep thinking Nicolas Cage is gonna yell at me while wearing that. And that's not even going into every villain's redesign. Shocker's mask and padded armor looks 10 times more intimidating, Vulture's color scheme is discreet with the black and green and is now more menacing, Rhino's armor is a mech suit welded into his skin that makes him so much more complex. He wants it off, that's genius! Which is way better than, that's not Rhino, that's a guy in a truck! And Scorpion, oh my, he now looks like the monster he's always been. That is not the face you want to see in a dark alley. Or a light alley. Or anywhere, really. I think it's the visor. Those eyes are nerve-wracking. And the tail. Spider-Man has classic, iconic villains. Guys that have been around for years, and we've been beating them up for just as long. So it was nice to see a new villain make their debut, Mr. Negative. Negative! Mr. Negative is one of Spidey's more recent foes. He only first appeared in 2008, a good 40 years later than everyone else. But as we see in this game, it's easy to assume he's gonna stick around. His backstory is intriguing, his design simple and clean, and his powers are freaking awesome. He makes for a great Spidey villain and main villain in this game. Now it's no surprise he's the villain, we all kind of knew it thanks to the trailers, the box art, hell. He's on the back of the box, it's pretty obvious. Though maybe a bit too obvious for the spider as well.
go back to his reveal. Martin Lee made Feast over 5 years ago and hired Aunt May for 5 of them, so we can assume Peter and Martin have known each other for that long, and their relationship is quite close. They care for each other. Peter shows Martin one of the masks of the demons, who claims to have flashbacks about his father reading him ghost stories, and warns Peter to stay away from this, something anyone would do when demons are involved. Martin then says he has a business trip to go to, while Peter fights more demons with Jefferson Davis, who is congratulated, but no luck, the demons decide to bomb the place and kill Jefferson in the process. Jefferson is buried, Miles is mourning, and the next scene, with no transition, Peter demands the police to go search for Martin Lee, claiming he is the leader of the demons.
Wow, great deduction there. Bit too good. Feels kind of rushed.
Did no other possibilities come to mind? Nothing at all? Without a second thought, you claim that Martin Lee, your good friend for the past 5 years, is the head of a terrorist organization?
And so casually. No inner turmoil or debating or fearing being right. You are so quick to judge Martin as the villain because he was scared of a mask and because he had a business trip.
He wasn't even that suspicious. When he was afraid of the mask, both he and Peter gave the reason.
Do you think Mr. Lee knows more than he's letting on?
No, I think he just had a weird flashback or something. I know his childhood was pretty traumatic.
Trauma can really be messy. I think you should know that much. And for his business trip excuse, he's the head of a giant shipping company. Him needing to go out of town is more normal than if he didn't need to go out of town.
Now I know technically Peter saw Martin at the bombing, but first of all, let's for a second, a literal second, watch.
And I think people with clean-cut black hair and suits aren't exactly rare in New York. And when we do get a proper reveal of Martin, Peter's KO. Only Miles saw him from far away, and he and Peter aren't exactly on talking terms.
And 2, did it never cross your mind that maybe Martin's been possessed as well? We know there's someone out there corrupting good people thanks to Shocker incident, so maybe Martin's under the same spell. That's a possibility.
I don't know, I just felt like this was really rushed. Not even a transition or a conversation with MJ debating it. No, not a single attempt at thinking of any other possibility. It's straight away Martin is the villain.
That was a very good deduction. Just one I don't think you earned yet.
Mary Jane Watson has always been a character for me. I've only ever seen her in the 90s cartoon, and I don't remember her, and the original Spider-Man trilogy, where she sucks.
So color me surprised when I played Spider-Man on PS4 and realized, wow, this version kicks butt.
You actually get to play as her, involving these stealth sections where Mary Jane has to get through hordes of villains to either escape with info, gather info, or help Spidey take down the baddies. These segments really show off her reporting abilities, her tenacious nature, and her brains. She outsmarts dozens of trained Sable soldiers in these parts. Go Mary! These segments are not only a good break from the rest of the game, segments she shares with Miles Morales, but also really bring her character together. An active member of the team who doesn't need Spidey's help to get the job done, but is also wanting to team up with Peter so they can crack the case together. And then in cutscenes, she is a treat. Witty, full of retorts, and not a damsel in distress. We had enough of that in the movies. Mary Jane fights for what is good and helps those in need. It's no wonder why her and Peter get along so well even after a breakup.
I love this! I love this depth of character shown not only through cutscenes, but the gameplay as well! I love this version of Mary Jane! Plus, her and Peter are the sweetest couple alive. Oh, those two precious beings just warm my cold, classy heart. When dealing with comic books, you need to have a very strong suspension of disbelief. This is a world where anything can happen. From people turning into living sand, to people seeing better while blind, to having impenetrable skin. It's nuts, just accept that. And usually I do. Usually. But even I have those moments where a superhero does something and I just say, no. Just no. In any universe, no. Batman surviving blows from Darkseid, Superman winding back time by flying very fast, this being Venom in any universe, and the origin of Miles' powers.
I was pleasantly surprised when Miles Morales showed up. I knew about the movie coming out later this year, so seeing more about the successor of Spider-Man in this game first was a nice way to get me excited. Although how he got his powers is completely stupid.
Oh, not the radioactive spider part, I'm cool with that. I'm talking about the chain of events that led him to be bit.
Near the end of the game, Mary Jane investigates Norman's apartment and while being scared by a spider, knocks over the case of another spider and sets it free. How many of these bastards are there? Said spider crawls onto Mary Jane and snags a ride on the Spidey Express to arrive at Feast. MJ and Peter check on Aunt May who's been poisoned and have a heartfelt speech. After that, Spider crawls down, Miles comes across it, and boom, Spider bite.
And to this I ask but one question. How did that spider not bite Mary Jane?
Insomniac, you are trying to tell us that this spider climbed onto Mary Jane, stuck around while she was hiding, held onto her while she was being chased by Sable, held onto her some more while being swung by Spider-Man from Upper Side to Chinatown, stay with her while discussing about Aunt May and give Spidey a pep talk, and then leave her without biting her. But the second Miles comes across it, spiders are little bastards that bite me while I sleep just for fun. So how the hell did that spider not bite Mary Jane during all of that? If not just to stay on her while being swung through New York at 70 clicks an hour.
And it's not like this is a hard fix. Just take Miles and bring him on the mission. Problem solved. Would have been cool.
Have Miles and MJ team up. One can hack and disable tech, while the other takes out the goons with the stun gun. Have Miles be the one to go through Norman's computer. He's a smart kid, he'd be able to.
And then have the little spider bite him there. Boom, done. That's how Sable finds them. That would have been cool.
This way about it just seems so stupid. There's no way that spider would not have bitten MJ through all of that, but snag Miles the second he's close. That's really pushing it just to get Ultimate Spider-Man.
And I was just super excited at the prospect of MJ becoming Spider-Woman in the sequel. That would have been so cool. Come on, raise your hands. Raise your hands to play that. Come on, guys, raise your hands. Raise your hands, you cowards.
One thing I am grateful for when it comes to the Arkham games and Spider-Man is that it doesn't waste your time. It knows you know at least the general background of these characters. They don't show us the death of the Waynes, or Peter getting bitten by the spider, or Uncle Ben being shot, because we've all seen this in some form or another.
These two have been around for decades. If you don't know them by now, you're either 5 months old, 100 years old, or you don't give a damn. Although while the Arkham games truly don't explain anything without the files, Spider-Man is a bit more clever and lays it all out in one simple long shot.
It all starts off with a simple So besides the obvious reason why it starts with an 8-legged abomination, we come across pictures of Aunt May and Ben Parker, followed by another with Peter, Mary Jane, and Harry. This is followed up by a third photo, put to the side, this time with only Aunt May and Peter.
This shows you Peter's entourage, yes, but also who's out of the picture when the story starts, with MJ having broken up with him, Harry having gone to Europe, and Uncle Ben... let's just say he's busy.
The last picture also shows Aunt May working at Feast, hinting at Mr. Lee, and of course, Mr. Negative. Following this up, we have a shot of Peter's sketchbook filled to the brim with gadget ideas, namely the web shooters, which are just beside the book.
This tells us that, first, this isn't the Sam Raimi version who can shoot web out of his wrists, but second, this isn't a Spider-Man who's starting out.
These designs have greatly changed compared to the sketches. They're a lot smaller and more efficient.
A lot of time has passed, he's perfected being Spider-Man.
This is then followed up by some more tech, and then a magazine called The Full Picture appears with Norman Osborn on the cover.
This foreshadows that this plot, everything that happens, all the machinations that will fall onto this city, all of it, ties back to Norman. This mainly involving the villain wanting to show his true side, his real self, the full picture.
Also, this magazine is dated 2011, which is when the Ultimate Comics debuted, with Miles leading as the new Spider-Man. Seeing as this is the game where he first gets his powers, I doubt it's a coincidence. After a shot of his mask and computer, showing us once again how advanced this Spidey is, we see newspaper clippings from the Daily Bugle of Spidey's big baddies: Scorpion, Rhino, Vulture, Electro, and of course, Kingpin.
Once again showing us how long he's been at it, the relevance of the Bugle, but also note how Kingpin is at the center of them all. Kind of like how Kingpin is at the center of New York at the time, and how his downfall is at the center of all the problems coming to life.
And then a picture of Uncle Ben's memorial, just in case you were still wondering what happened.
And that's it. In 1 minute, and with one long shot, this game just gave you all you need to know about Peter, his entourage, the key players in this story, even how the plot's going to go down. That is the mark of someone who cares. The details make everything in a story, and this game showed it in the first minute. And the transition to gameplay is freaking awesome. Why do scientists in comic books suck? No matter what they try, they suck.
The Lizard, Bruce Banner, Dr. Octopus, Norman Osborn, Harry Osborn, every single super soldier project in existence.
And now we can add the scientists of Oscorp to the list of absolute nitwits.
Harry was diagnosed with an incurable disease that was slowly eating away at his body. Norman, not being a total heartless bastard at the idea of his only son dying, uses all of his money to try and find a cure for not only Harry's, but all genetic diseases. He tasks multiple high-ranking scientists at Oscorp on this project, and progress is made.
And by progress, I mean they make the exact opposite.
They end up with an unstable virus nicknamed Devil's Breath, due to how viral this disease is in the air. They say that if properly curated, it can become the cure they're looking for, but
how do you aim to make something and then make its exact opposite? Someone fudged up there.
Hey baby, I hear the blues are calling. Tossed salads and scrambled eggs.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Chomping with Classy, where this week we're taking a look at the ratatouille from, well, Ratatouille. This is a very requested dish, so I've done a lot of analysis of it. So first of all, what you want is, of course, all these different kinds of meat. I have some bacon, some lovely prosciutto ham, it's gonna go super well with it, 2 different kinds of fish, you can never be too careful, and of course, some prime steak. This is going to make a lovely dish, a super dish for all you vegans to enjoy. But that's not what gets me with Devil's Breath. If I'm not a science expert, maybe to cure cancer we've got to make a much worse cancer. What gets me is how they protect this highly viral, highly deadly disease.
Oscorp could keep it in one of their secret labs. Maybe one of their underground vaults kept under wraps. Heck, maybe Osborn could keep it in his secret lab in his penthouse. Or a briefcase. Guarded by one guy.
Osborn apparently only trusts this virus to one doctor who keeps it at home in a briefcase that he handcuffs to himself.
I'm surprised it took Martin Lee and the entirety of the demons to get it, when it seems to me like a random thug with a buzzsaw could get it just as easily!
Why is this so out in the open? Why is a deadly virus that can contaminate the entirety of New York not locked up behind 15 steel doors and 1,000 access codes? Why is the only thing between us and human extinction a couple of rotating numbers on a lockpad?
It's not like he can't afford better security. He's the mayor, and he's Osborn. Batman can't afford half the stuff this guy can. You literally have secret locations scattered around the city, and then afterwards guarded by Sable. Use one!
You guys were asking for this to happen. If the product of your life and most dangerous disease known to man can be stolen with a hit and run, you deserve to be exposed.
We're sure Osborn's not the Green Goblin yet, because he's making about as much sense.
Spiderman PS4 manages something very few superhero games have: make you feel like that superhero. Why don't people like X-Men Destiny despite being able to make a mutant? Because you have no real impact in the X-Men world. Why don't people like RoboCop? Because you're supposed to be an indestructible android, but you're as fragile as tissue paper. Why don't people like Superman 64?
Besides it being a broken, unplayable, god-awful mess.
Because you don't feel like Superman when you're being shot down by random thugs and have to pick up your powers. Why does he have to pick up his powers? He's Superman!
But Spider-Man just nails it. Swinging through New York feels so free and natural, you'll be mastering parkour through the Big Apple like the web swinger himself. But swinging through New York would get tiresome pretty quickly if there was no reason to explore. Which is why I love the side missions.
I love these side missions for 3 reasons. 1, how many there are and how there's something for everyone's fancy. Want some combat? Take a base filled with enemies. Want to show off some parkour or infiltration? A Taskmaster challenge is very good for that. Some variety? The Harry missions are all unique. Something bite-sized? Backpacks, crimes, and black cats are right there for you. 2, they're fun. There are so many tasks you can accomplish, but none feel out of place. They all feel like they belong in this city and you want to do it all. Hell, I platinumed this game. I never platinum games. That just shows you I wanted to do everything and then some. And 3, this one comes back to my point. It makes you feel like Spider-Man. They're small tasks, stopping a robbery or talking to bird watchers. But you're not the Guardians of the Galaxy. You're not the Avengers. You're the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. You're here for everyone, big and small. That's why Spidey connects with so many and what this game nails. It makes you feel like the spider helping out the inhabitants of New York, and that is beautiful.
Three letters. D. L. C.
Okay, let me start off by saying I don't have an intolerant spite towards DLC just instantly.
I wish it wasn't a thing, but I'll admit it can be done right.
DLC is meant to enhance an experience. It's meant to pull people back into a beloved game, to give them new content to something they already adored. Good examples of good DLC would be Shovel Knight, with new characters and even campaigns to play through, Bioshock Infinite's Burial at Sea, which shows a new perspective to the entire series all in Rapture, and The Binding of Isaac Wrath of the Lamb that adds all new monsters, bosses, items, trials, so much content. But then there are many examples of DLC done horribly wrong. Many examples.
To selling packs of skins at $5 a go, to locking out the true ending of the game behind DLC, to taking out portions of the game to sell later as DLC, to actually having the DLC on the disc at launch behind a paywall. Do you not get what the D stands for?
And while the content in Spider-Man I'm sure is going to be worth it, I do have faith in Insomniac. The timing of it all is just so stupid.
What brain-dead idiot thought it was a good idea to announce DLC for Spider-Man 3 days before the game comes out?
You do know the stigma behind DLC, right? You know how despised they are, so why announce this just before your game comes out? Is this supposed to advertise the fact that the €70 game you're about to buy in 3 days is not the full product?
Oh yeah, some way of building up the hype, everyone.
How did announcing this help? Was it to get people excited? Guys, Spider-Man is the most anticipated game of 2018. Was it to show if Spidey will get new content? We haven't even seen the original content! This announcement just makes no sense in any angle. It's stupid. It lessens the hype because you now know you need to spend another $30 to get the full game 3 days before it comes out. It doesn't bring old fans in. It won't bring any new fans. It's pointless! It's bloody pointless! Why so soon? This just seems like a bullet in the foot and is easily the biggest mistake this game made in my eyes. However,
remember how I said earlier on how there was no need to introduce Spider-Man? How we all know this story that's been with us for decades and decades. That still holds true for the beginning.
See, while you may know Spider-Man, you don't know this Spider-Man. And that for me is this game's strongest point. The story. Or more specifically, how bold it is. Imagine just how long Spider-Man has been around. How grounded his mythos is. Imagine all the adaptations that have shown him being bitten, how he's coped with his powers, the villains he's faced and when he's faced them. The movies, the cartoons, the video games, the plethora of comics. Imagine all of that. Now imagine the guts one must have to look at 50 years of lore, toss it away and say, we'll do our own version.
And it works.
This is a Spidey who's been at a job for 8 years, but has never faced either the Green Goblin or Dr. Octopus, arguably two of his biggest villains. This is a Spidey who is working for Dr. Octavius and contributes so much to his rise to fame and downfall as the aforementioned Dr. Octopus. This is a Spidey who no longer works at the Bugle, but Mary Jane does. This is a Spidey with no Gwen Stacy. Anywhere. She isn't mentioned a millisecond anywhere in this game. But most of all, this is a Spidey. This is a Spider-Man. This is a Peter Parker who's going to lose Aunt May.
Killing off Aunt May at the end is one of the biggest kicks in the teeth I have ever been delivered by a game. That's like killing Alfred in the Arkham series. Unheard of, unthinkable. And that's where my respect comes in.
And that's the key word I would use for Spider-Man on PS4. Respect. They respected the source material, they respected the over 50 years of history all these characters have had, but they also weren't wanting to just tell history again. They were willing to make history.
Spider-Man on PS4 is one of my favorite games of all time, let alone favorite Spider-Man game. Everything feels right. And that is the biggest compliment you can give someone who is using a universe that is so well known and so beloved. It feels genuine, and I love it. It's strange to think that even to this day, you are still forging my strongest gaming memories. And speaking of memories, in 1 month, I'll be reliving some. See you then. And all 3 games better be on that disc, goddammit!